you pointing me, Rob? Hi, Rob. Speak. Now? Are you sure? Are you sure? Oh, there it is. Wow. I haven't been here for 5 weeks. You've all gotten older. I better be careful. I don't want to insult the people I'm going to ask things of. So Marilyn and I, and Dr. Sammy, he's going to come up in a few minutes. We're going to talk to you this morning about Haiti. And Marilyn and I have promised to stick with our script. Marilyn, go down, because you're not that tall. Okay, and we're going to show you a series of slides, and we're just going to talk through them. So this is Marilyn McIlroy for you. But before we do that, Marilyn, just a sec. This is not in the script. If you've been to Haiti, would you stand up? Stand up if you've been to Haiti. Woo. Okay?
All right.
Now, there's a reason I'm asking that question, because many of you haven't, right? And now, there's people here who are newish. We've done things like we've covered that wall with bricks. Did I ever use a thermometer here? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure we're going to do any of that this year. So we're going to talk to you about an initiative in Haiti, and then Dr. Sammy and I are just going to have a conversation together, if that's okay with everybody. So Marilyn, you're on.
Good morning. Does this work? Okay, good. So the week of February 5 to 11 past was the week of the International Development Week, acknowledged by our nation, but it was overshadowed by the massive earthquakes of Syria and Turkey. So you probably didn't hear anything about International Development Week. It became a week, and we're still in it, of recovery, search and recovery. But during that week, Canadian contributions to partnerships across the world were highlighted as they related to reducing poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, and encouraging sustainable development. And so today we are going to share how Trinity has partnered with the community of Jean Denat in Haiti in the domain of development. The theme of the EMC World Partners Week that we had February 5 to 11 was using what we have and trusting God for more. And so I've taken my comments mostly from the material that was prepared for that week, Feb 5 to 11. We as followers of Jesus and as part of the EMC have an opportunity to reflect on the way that Jesus has called us to seek the common good of our global and our local neighbors. We at World Partners have been convicted to evaluate how we begin this work. Well, we've been in the process for a long, long time, but we needed to have begun to reevaluate. So World Partners has chosen the asset-based approach model, a belief that everyone has a measure of resource that can be utilized. And this morning we want to look at a passage of scripture. It comes from 2 Kings 4, verses 1 to 7, where the prophet Elisha demonstrates this with this approach with a widow in desperate circumstances. Okay, is that okay?
Might have gone way. Oh, there.
Can we go one back? Because I forgot this. Oh no. Okay.
Oh, you're okay.
We're fine. Go to the scripture then. Thanks. So one day, the widow of a member of the group of prophets came to Elisha and she cried out, "My husband, who served you, is now dead, and you know how he feared the Lord. But now a creditor has come, and he's threatening to take away my 2 sons as slaves." I read a little commentary about that was legal to do when there was a creditor, but you had to treat the slaves properly, and it was for a period of time. "And what can I do to help you?" Elisha asked. "Tell me, what do you have in the house?" "Nothing at all," she says, "except a flask of oil," she replied. And so Elisha said, "Borrow as many empty jars as you can find from your friends and neighbors." So just a little aside, I went to the story of Jesus when he changed the water into wine at the wedding at Cana of Galilee. And those water jugs were for purification, and they held 20 to 30 gallons of water. So I don't know how big those jugs were or how big those containers were, but I have a feeling they were a lot bigger than this mug. I think that those containers were huge. So Elisha said, borrow as many empty jars as you can from your friends and neighbors, and then go into your house with your sons and shut the door behind you. This is not going to be a public miracle here. It's for private. So pour olive oil from your flask into the jars, setting each one aside when it's filled. So she did as she was told. That's always a good thing. Her sons kept bringing jars to her, and she filled one after the other. Now, it doesn't detail how many jars there were, but it does say, soon every container was full to the brim. Bring me another jar, she said to one of her sons. There aren't any more, he told her. And then the olive oil stopped flowing. When she told the man of God what had happened, he said to her, now, go and sell the olive oil, and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on what is left over. This scripture relates for us. What do we have in our homes? And it relates to Haiti as well. Okay, resources. So we read about what the woman had in her house. I want to look right at the bottom. So all of us, Canada and around the globe, we have been given time. And we are the human resources. And God has given us skills and abilities to work the way he has planned us to work. And so that's time and human are global. And there are natural resources. Not every country has the same amount of natural resources, but those natural resources can be made into physical resources, which then can be served to be sold. Then we have the social. Not every country benefits from that. But as we are followers of Jesus, we all have spiritual resources as well. So I just wanted to look at that and for us to recognize what is it that we have in our hands, and what does God then require of us to do with those resources?
So I'm going to just remind you, and for some of you, this is not a reminder. Oh well, I'll make it work. For some of you, this isn't a reminder. The next slide would be great. There we go. This is the project we're going to be talking about this morning is Research Development 146. So it has three prongs. One is school or education. And so some of the beneficiary families, one member of each family gets to go to school, gets school supplies, etc. Then there's agriculture. That's where the Gardens of Faithfulness or Farming God's Way comes into it. And the third one is some community building. And so what we're going to do today, and the target each year was 90,000 a year Canadian. The project runs for 3 years. So this is the third year of 3, and we're going to talk a bit about that later as well. So if I could go to the next slide. For some of you, again, you're reasonably new to Trinity. I'm an old fogey here, I guess. The first year we did this, Andy Morris had something really neat that he uses for us to help families at the Christmas season. And so we decided in the middle of the beginning of COVID, okay, so you got to picture this. There's nobody here. Nobody in this building. Everything's online. The mission committee decided that we as a church would commit to supporting 1 month. So in terms of the 1/12 of the 90,000 Canadian, it would be about $7,615. if numbers are important to you, and they should be, just so you know. So the service is on, it's online, and we're talking about these pledges, and Betty and I are up in Markdale, sitting in my sister-in-law's, we call it the gift house, the blessing house. We're up there, and we're watching this, and every once in a while I'd flip over to the website. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, 92% of that $7,615 was pledged. That was amazing. I might even say freaking amazing, but I don't know if I can say that in church. But by the Tuesday, it was 100% committed. Now, I think that's praiseworthy, guys, even 2 years later. So here's the thing that happened. People kept coming to us and saying, I didn't get a chance to pledge. And I would say to them, well, why were you so slow? Like, it's pretty simple. Everybody had the same button they could push, the same pledge they could make. By making a pledge, they weren't saying, I'm going to pay it today. They were saying, I'm going to commit to it, right? I'm going to commit to being a part of this initiative. So, but before I go on to the next slide, I want to point out how this might have been, and one of the things up there, see the top band of pictures where it says 100%? When that started, it was a black and white picture. And as pledges came in, it filled like a bar. And the colors started coming. And I don't know if that inspired people, I better get on this. But by 2 o'clock, 92% of that picture was colored in. And it shows there 82%. I'm not quite sure what that was. So then we had to say to people, okay, all of these things on the bottom are committed to. And I did a little math this morning. And if I take the numbers, each school director is $450. Each elementary school teacher, $335, middle school, $195, school supply packages, $120 each. When I added that up, it was $7,170 of the $7,615. There were also garden tools, there were other things that were required for the project, seeds, etc., and they were all committed. So what I want you to notice for a second, so let's say you've got a child who's in elementary school, grade 1 to 6. And later I'm going to ask you how you might want to get involved. Well, you might want to look at it and say, well, I've got 2 kids in elementary school. Maybe we'll commit to $335 for each of them, right? I'm giving you ideas. And that's how we, I'm going to say, sold it the first time. And some of you might say, well, I'm an administrator for a school or something. Well, we have administrators that they cost us 580 Canadian a month. So that's one way you can look at this pledge. Well, so what we decided to do was we said, let's do some bonus pledges. You're not committing to anything specific for the 1 month. You're committing to kind of getting close to the going from the first month support to the second month support. Well, if my memory serves me correctly, Brian, you might be able to answer this better. We got to about a month and a half in that first year. Okay, so we'll go to the second slide. We weren't as creative in the second year. We basically says, what do you have in your house? Well, at that time, our premier was giving us all rebates for our driver's license stuff. And we said, that's found money. Some of you might want to use that for this project. And that was just an idea for people. We didn't do anything splashy with a picture that colors in. I don't even think I did anything on the wall. And we just basically said, we would like to do 1 month. And doing 1 month, we basically said, we will commit to 1/12 of the $90,000. Well, guess what happened? Another month and a half of support came in the second year. Maybe our faith isn't big enough. Maybe I should have set out to the mission committee and said, Hey, how about 3 months worth? I'm not saying that, but you get the idea there?
Shaking my head,
Maybe my God is too small. Maybe we don't look to God to provide. Now, I brought a prop with me. This is my jar of oil. She's a great massage therapist, by the way. Now, Wayne, I have lunch too. It says world's greatest grandfather. But I have a bottle of Febreze. Now, if I gave this to Stephanie, I don't want you to spray it, Stephanie. No, just shake it for a second. Anything in here? There's nothing in here. There hasn't been anything in this bottle for over a month and a half. Every day in our bathroom, I say, please, Lord, stretch this. I'm not going to spray it because I know some of you are sensitive to smell. As of this morning, it still works, and there's nothing in this bottle. The point that I want to make with this is that God can take what we have and stretch it. But John, I can't afford this. Well, maybe you can afford to pray for the project. And we're going to talk about ways you can support it as we go on. Now, Marilyn, I think I'm done what I was supposed to do. Just a sec. Yep. So we're going into the third year. And so the question I want you to think about is, what do you have in the house? From that passage in Kings. What do you have? What do we have in the church house? Right? Marilyn, you're on.
I don't seem to be able to get this to work, so, okay, great. So this is just a little bit more about, maybe if I just take this out, that'd be good. Okay, this is just a little bit more about the project. So we've always called it Farming God's Way, but as John mentioned, there are 3 pieces to it. So there is the school piece, the education piece, there's the gardening and families piece, and there's the community. So inspiring the community to come alongside. So it's integrated. So there are 50 beneficiary families that were chosen prior to year 1, and each of those beneficiary families participate or are to participate in the Gardens of Faithfulness. Okay, and then you can go to the next slide, please. And then from each of those 50 families, there is a student who's been chosen. So the families and students were chosen so that they would benefit from schooling and from the education of Farming God's Way. Each child would receive school books, backpacks, and then other school supplies would be available for the teachers. And then the adult beneficiaries receive ongoing training in Farming God's Way and Gardens of Faithfulness techniques. They're given seeds, some equipment for their gardening. And then the cool piece about this is that each of the teachers, so they're receiving their support because we're doing Farming God's Way and we have beneficiaries and beneficiary students. So the teachers then go to the 2 or 3 or 5 families each month who are beneficiary children / families. They visit them, they see how they're doing. They do an overall visit. I want to know how their garden is doing. But the teachers are really concerned about the child's welfare too. And so when they send me their monthly report, they'll say, this student was absent 3 days, so on the presence piece of information, and then on the other page where they've actually done their visit, they will say this child had the flu or some kind of diarrheal illness and they were away. And then they will talk about the families. And so in this infographic then we also see that there was a Farming God's Way training last August in 2022, and 67 gardens were planted. Yay! So, moving on to the next slide then. So we have some things. We found that spinach doesn't work very well growing in Haiti. Kale. I was really hopeful because kale is a very good, nutritious food, a green, an above the ground leafy green vegetable that would be very good for each of the families, but it doesn't like the hot weather. Kale likes our cool weather. We could start planting our kale right now, actually, and it would be fine. So Swiss chard works. You can go to the next slide, please. And so this is what an ideal garden of faithfulness should look like. It's a 1 meter by 2 meter, and you're going, well, why is it so small? Because it's a little demonstration of what God can do if you follow these methods. So they're to plant 2 rows of leafy green vegetables, like I said, Swiss chard, or any kind of lettuce, but really Swiss chard is the best. And then they're to plant 2 rows of root plants, so carrots usually and beets, and those, I'll talk a little bit about success in a bit. And then the 3rd row is to be fruit bearing, so you might have like okra or tomatoes. Peppers grow really well in this area. So let me make sure I'm still with my slides here. Yes, next slide, please. So year 1, we started out, this was a picture actually that was on that little row of pictures. And you're going, well, don't you have any new pictures? Well, I thought this was kind of cool because the 2 students mentioned there have gone from grade 7, grade 8, and now they're in grade 9. And so they're beneficiary students that have been able to continue to go to school, and this is middle school, and it's the only middle school in this whole area. Otherwise, the parents would have to send their children to Wanament. And then that's a whole other big deal because kids are on their own at this age and having to live with other families, having to scrounge for food. Parents can't supervise them. And so one of the bits of news I heard was that this age group of kids in Wanament, the girls, after they're done school, take off go home, change their uniforms into some flashy, fancy little dress. They go across to the Dominican and provide their services across in the Dominican. They come back with multiple STIs and even AIDS. And so the downside of sending your kids away to school is, well, you've just seen. So it's wonderful to be able to have these kids in school, and this project helps to fund the middle school for the Jean Donat EM school. One more picture here. These little pumpkins were in grade 1, starting with the project, and now Elinise and Shanaida are in grade 3. And the lady beside them is Marilia. She is, she's kind of like Reverend Mother. The Reverend Mother has gone downstairs. But anyway, she's like Reverend Serena. Marilia is a wonderful mom to the community. She's a director at the school and also teaches grade 1. And she's the wife of Pastor Andre, who's almost retired. He had some strokes, so he can't work anymore. Okay, so those are grade 3 students. And so this is a little bit. And I don't have any pictures about community. Never thought of that. But anyway, since this project has begun, I hear the stories of Ernso saying, okay, I was praying with a beneficiary family, and the neighbor was watching, listening, and he said, well, why did you pray before you started with your garden teaching? And so that gives an opportunity to share Jesus in the community, but also share the benefits of the Farming God's Way. Okay, John.
Okay. I'm going to invite Dr. Samuel Charles to come on up. Marilyn, I'm going to create a space for you. So Sammy, how about there? We'll pull this to the middle. Rob says the one with the black, right? Rob, you're going to try it. And Marilyn, how about back there? Then I don't have to keep turning my head. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to Trinity Dr. Samuel Charles. Give him a Trinity welcome. Come on. Now, we don't want to call him Samuel. He wants us to call him Sammy. Now, you've seen Sammy over the last few months for sure, and you should just test it in there. Sammy, just say
It's good. Yeah.
Say hello.
Hello.
Give us a good singing voice. You go, hello. Okay, and I want Sammy to tell us what's up on the screen right now.
This is a surprise.
Good morning.
That's my
Fiance Fegina and I. So, yeah. So we met in med school in Port-au-Prince in 2016 and started dating 2 years later, and being engaged almost a year now. So she's working actually in Jardinat as a doctor right now. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just do this as kind of a conversation with Dr. Sammy, if you don't mind. Some of it is for you to get to know a little bit about Sammy and where he came from and what he's doing now. And then I want to morph that a little bit to where he sees things in Haiti. And I've got a series of questions. These are not a surprise to Sammy, okay? I'm not springing these on him. But at the end, I'm going to say, does anybody have any questions? So if you hear anything that you want elaborated on at the end, I'll give you an opportunity to ask a question. But please, we want Sammy to come back, so don't be mean. Okay, got it? Okay, so Sammy, tell us a little bit about where you grew up in Haiti, life in Haiti when you grew up.
So I was born in Port-au-Prince. Actually, I don't know if you've been following the news in Haiti, you probably have been heard about Cité Soleil. It's one of the biggest suburb, like 20 years ago was like the center of attraction of everything been happening politically in Haiti. So I was born there, and then when I was 2 years old, my family moved to Cap Haitian. That's where I grew up. So Cap Haitian, it's kind of northern Haiti, and it's 3 hours drive from Jardinat, because Jardinat is northeast, and Cap Haitian is like the biggest city in the north. So I grew up in a typical Haitian family, economically speaking. So we are a family of three kids. So I have two younger sisters. One is married and just had a baby, and the other is still at home and working for the Ministry of working at the Ministry of Tourism in Cap Haitian. So yeah, so that's my family.
So what was life like growing up there? What was it like?
It was different from now. Growing up, we were very exposed to the Western influence. Like everything that we were seeing on TV was what was happening in the States or Canada or France, because it's a former colony of France. So we kept like comparing what was happening in Haiti and other this type of countries. But now, doing a retrospective thing, like it's way different from like comparing the Haiti that I grew up and the Haiti right now. Like it's completely different. So I grew up in a Christian family where we were very, we didn't have to think about if we would be able to go to church the next Sunday, which is an issue now. So camping was my favorite activity to do during the summer. That was huge growing up. And I had, me and my sisters, we had the opportunity to enjoy that. And now you cannot do that. We had like a public library that we could go, and now it no longer exists. movie theaters that, all the basics, like all the basic things that a child can enjoy. So I was blessed to grow up in Haiti, even though Marilyn, who've been going to Haiti for over like 30 years, can see the difference. But at the moment, you didn't know that was something that was a blessing to you. But now, like the way things are, you can see that my niece, who is just a newborn baby, like might not be able to live this, right? So like I would say that I had a like very typical childhood. I will not complain about it. Of course, we had like serious economic problems, like a lot of families in Haiti. But we were fortunate enough to go to school because that was the basic. I went to a public primary school and a high school, a public high school. So not the best education because there's a lot of challenge and those schools are very unfunded. Like there's not a lot of money going in there. So and that's the only kind of school that a lot of Haitians can afford. Like in my classes in Haiti, going to high school, it would be over 120 students for one teacher. So it's crowded, and you have to go early to have a sit because if you late, you're gonna spend all the day like standing and trying to take notes on your notebook. So it's not easy. You have to go like early. So it was a challenge for 7 years of high school doing it like this. But like you have to do it. Otherwise, private schools are not for like a lot of families. Like I would say 80% of families cannot afford paying 400-500 US dollars a month for a kid. Okay, so it's not given to anybody, right? So you need first to have this entrance exam to go to that public high school and then work hard to stay in it because they can kick you out if you don't have the grades of the. Yeah, so that was all these good and bad stuff that now I can look back and see. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like growing up in Thunder Bay at all. So, what are you doing now?
So I moved in here in Canada 8 months ago, and I came here as a refugee. So I am still waiting on my papers because it's very slow. But in the meantime, I am studying to pass the first exam in a matter to get my credential here. And also, I do some volunteer work at a public school in Bresla twice a week. And I volunteer at the Kitchener-Waterloo Multicultural Center, where I help to support other newcomers in Canada that their languages are not French or English. Try to support them. Yeah, so that's my main
Where
thing.
you are now.
Yeah.
So, you said you grew up in a Christian home, church, and stuff like that. You want to tell us a little bit about your faith story?
So, growing up in a Christian family, if there's some of you who have, like grew up in Christian families, sometimes when people who didn't know Jesus before and get to know him later have a unique testimony to say this is how I got to know Jesus. But people who grew up in Christian families, sometimes we don't think about our faith story, but that was the most like valuable thing in my life growing up in Haiti, having the chance to know Jesus like early in life, because this this changed so many things for me, because I knew early on that there are things that I can control and others that I cannot control, and and to make that demarcation, right? To understand that I have someone that can do things that like normal human beings cannot do, and and that was like life changing, because I had to trust God like in every step in my life, because when you don't have like sometimes when we have the resources, we don't think about this kind of things because we think that we can do whatever we want, we can afford this, we can, but when you cannot, you can see the greatness of God, because finishing high school, my parents could afford university, so I had to go to a public university. So at the time, after the earthquake, there were a new public university in like 30 minutes where I live. So I enrolled, but there was like thousands of other students that wanted to get in. So that year, there was like 5,000 students enrolled for 3,000 places in a country where there's a lot of corruption, and like people can't get in without writing the test. So what I could control was study hard and go write the test. What I couldn't control was, will I get a place there? And I got in, and that was God. Like that was like me, and started going to school. The building was beautiful, but there was no teachers, no supplies for anything, and they were like stopped to close for 2 months, 3 months, on and off going to school. I needed to change like university because I wasn't receiving education there, and again, that I can talk about this all day. Like I found that scholarship that through EMCC, that was just amazing to the way that I got this connection to left Cap Asian and go to Port-au-Prince in like the best private university in Haiti to train as a doctor. So again, things that you can control. Like I had to write a test to get in. Those things, like I can make sure that I do them. But the others, you can't, like I couldn't control them. So go in Port-au-Prince, a lot of violence, like kidnappings, people are killing people in front of you. And like, how can I control that I'm gonna wake up this morning, go to school, and make sure that I come back home? How can I do that? Like, I don't have this kind of control on my life, but someone does. And like, this is the kind of, the kind of faith, like the kind of story that you said, okay, God say, who among you by worrying can add just 1 hour in your life? So, like, I'm just doing more harm by worrying about things that I can't control. So, and again, like, ended up here in Canada, like the way that I got that scholarship to go to McGill University through my university in Haiti. So this is just all God, and this is my like faith story to say this is what God can do. Simply as that.
You know, that's clap-worthy, guys. That's clap-worthy. Wow. We don't, well, some of us probably have stories like that where we worked hard. We did what we were supposed to do, but we couldn't control. And we have to then put it in God's hands. So I'm going to shift our focus a little bit now. And I got to read a little bit here because I would never remember all the details here. In 2019, community leaders representing education, healthcare, and agriculture met together in Wanamint. Wanamint. Get it? See that? That's where they met, and that's right on the border of Haiti with the Dominican Republic. And they met to identify available resources within their community. What did they already have? What was in their house? I'm going to keep relating back to that passage with the widow. And so what did they have? And then they also wanted to discuss the challenges that lay ahead for this community. In the community that we're talking about is Jean Donat, GDN, right? So if you can't say Jean Donat, say GDN. You were involved in the discussions as a translator for the World Partners Director and delegates who were present. What were some of the things you remember about that meeting?
I was very focused on translating for both parties involved in that meeting, but the slide with the resources that we just had on the screen was something that was huge during those 2 days, and recently, talking to my fiance who's working in Jordan right now, I praise the Lord that I think that this is moving forward, because I tried to give her a briefing on Jean Donat before she went there, and I grew up in a city, and she grew up in Port-au-Prince, which is busier than Cap Haitian, and going to Jean Donat in 2019 was a shock for me. I've never been to a place that has so little, and I knew this was going to be even more for her because of her family, because that's a big change, and every time that I ask, how do you do for this thing? She's like, oh, someone has started a business there. I was like, that wasn't there last year when I was there. It a lot of the obstacles that I thought that she would find there, she has an answer to say that, okay, maybe you were in a different place that I was, I am in a different place that you were last year. And I started to think, I said, talking about meeting with leaders and trying to identify resources, because sometimes they're here, we don't see them. Identify this kind of resources and see how we can work with what we got to have more from God can really work. And in my opinion, it's working in Jonathan. It's definitely working.
Well, I think you've answered part of the next question, but I'm going to put it right out there. So in this house with this group of people, we've been involved in RD 146, the initiative. That's the number that the missionary church has put on it. And we've been involved for 2 years. Can this project make a difference? Or maybe I should say, does this project make a difference? What do you think?
Definitely. I would say yes. Both because
I'll say how so.
Yes, both because I could take my life personally as an example, how relatively small things for others can do great change in my life, because a community as Jean Donat we're not going to talk about like the UNICEF statistics about how many kids in Haiti are not going to school. But like in the city, it's a lot. But all of like all of these kids are in communities like Chandernat. So there's a lot of terrible things happening to kids and teens in this area. And just the fact that a kid can be like is able to go to school and dream about a better future, for me it's amazing. It's just amazing.
That's I'm so glad to hear that. So you've talked a little bit about the significance. So can you encourage us a little bit in terms of our involvement in this? Can you do anything with that? Because I'm going to be making an appeal in a few seconds. Get ready.
It's just like I've always been, I always love this kind of project over bigger projects, because this is, for me as a nation, we've been hearing billions of dollars giving to Haiti like for years and not seeing significant change. So this is the kind of story that I like to hear. Like after the earthquake 13 years ago now, like $13 billion have been given to Haiti, and Haiti is worst.
Yes.
So, like I remember during my years at university, there was a major hurricane in 2016, and like we freaked out because we saw like the same mistakes getting made over and over again, because something happened in a place. There's they call for help, and then you have people that have no idea about what's happening there coming with all the like supplies and human resources that they have, and come and don't know nothing about what they're doing there. Why? Because they're not working collaboratively with the local people. So what we did, we said, okay, we had a student association that called for voisin in French. In English, it's like neighbor. So we already been involved in the neighborhood of the university. So we said, like, we understand what's happening there and we know what people need. So instead of ships of supplies coming from abroad and killing the local market, so I am just going to reach out to friends here in Canada, and maybe they can support in the way that they can, and then we can first buy what we need because it's available there. Like if you need socks, you need diapers, you need like this kind of things that are available there. So we're gonna support the local markets and then give the help to people that we want to support. So this is the kind of the model that I see in that project in Jardinat, where Trinity is working with local leaders in Jardinat, trying to help people. And when the stories like arise, you can hear about it, like you can track it, you can like hear all those testimonies. It's not that just huge. You give and then you feel better because you give. It's you give, but you can track the progress like over years to say, okay, we help this student finish high school or middle school. And for me, this is the kind of tangible change that a project like this over like bigger projects.
Well, so we heard that. I hope we heard that. It is making a difference. It's making a difference in the life of this child, who the one that you showed has now gone 3 years of school that would not have done without this project. You've seen gardens. You've seen people reaping a harvest from these gardens. And so, Dr. Sammy, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to risk this. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask for Dr. Sammy? Anybody? And I'm not trying to shut you down, but does anybody have a question? Something you'd like? And I'm going to give you about 5 seconds, okay? Yes, Alex.
You said the before and after, kind of like a big transition, growing up and the difference after. Was that just earthquake, or was there and the storms, or was there also political change?
So are we still on Zoom? Okay, I better repeat some of that. So there's the before and the after, before the earthquake and the hurricane. Was that all that happened, or was there political change? Is that close enough, Alex? Okay.
It's all that you've mentioned. Like, it's a combination of all of this. Like, politically, there's always been things happening in Haiti. But the earthquake, the hurricane in 2016, they haven't helped. Like, they just make it just worse. And now, like, in Haiti, have been an independent country for over 200 years, and it's the first time that we doesn't have, like, nobody who were elected, nobody. Like, the person in charge was named by the president that was assassinated just 2 days, like 2 days before the president was assassinated, named that guy who was leading right now. So no senators, no deputy, no, like, nobody. It's just anarchy right now. And, like, we've never seen that. Like in my lifetime, I've never seen that. I've never heard that in history. So yeah, I would say that we've reached our deepest point. And I just turned 30. I know Marilyn has been going to Haiti like for 40 years. And I'm sure you haven't seen what is happening in Haiti like right now. So it's just a combination of everything.
I'd kind of like Sammy to share.
Oh, you want to use that, though?
I want Sammy to share just really quickly. So you went there and you translated, but then you said that was a surprise or a shock to you to see the difference between Cap and Jean de Nat. But then you went back to do 4 months of stage. Can you just share how different that was for you? Even more difficult.
Yeah, like when I went in 2019 was with Marilyn and some other folks from Canada to do that training with the community leaders. So it was for 5 days, and I spent 3 of these 5 days in Wanamet, which is like a city, not quite like Jean de Nat. But like I was not exploring Jean de Nat, like I was like inside, and just wherever you guys would go, I just go and try to translate. But last year, I spent 4 months working as a clinic doctor here at Jean de Nat. That was, as you say, another experience, because you have to merge with that community and hear all these stories, and it's just I would say eye-opening in a way that I've always said that you sit here in Cap Haitian, of course there's a lot of poverty, but you do not know how blessed you are until you go like 2 hours northeast to go to see what's happening in Jean de Nat, even for the poorest family, right? in Cap Haitian, because it's not always comparing yourself to okay, there's in Dominican Republic that we don't have in Haiti, but it's also what we have in Cap Haitian that they don't have in Jardinot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to transition. If you've got more questions, you're here for soup. Yeah. Okay. You can stay there if you like. Rob, could you flip to the second last slide, I think it is. So, how about the slide just before that, Rob? I want to see what's there. Yeah. Oh, he was there already. Yeah. Way to go, John. So, again, so this is the three prongs of the project, and the project is, sorry, I'm not supposed to call it a project. The initiative. The project. It has the three prongs, and it is making a difference. It is making a difference. So, Rob, if you could go to the next slide, and then I'm going to send you back to this one. Okay. So we talked about this a little earlier. The mission committee has decided that they would like to go for 1 month again. Now, maybe we should go for 2 months, but that's not for me to say. It really isn't. So we'll start with 1 month, and what we'd like to do is we're not going to beat the drums. We just want you to go home and pray about it, but I want to remind you that we are already almost 2 months through this new year. The project has been running on fumes, basically, for 2 months. So if the Lord moves you in some way to support this, like you could support it by saying, I want to support the amount for, I'll do both school directors. Or, hey, John, you know what? Money's tight. We are in really tough times. So maybe I could pay the equivalent of some school supplies. Maybe I could commit to that. Maybe, and then you can say, God, I have no idea where this money's going to come from, but I'm trusting you to provide it for me in a very similar way to my Febreze, or in similar ways to your school experience, that we can trust God to provide. Now, so there's a whole list there. The total is $76.15. If somebody wants to go home and write a check for that, feel free. I will never turn down a check that size. I might even come up and do a happy dance if that will inspire you to do that. But I do want to say something in terms of giving. This giving to the Haiti project, and the treasurer will really like that I say this, I know he will, is over and above. You've got your commitment to Trinity or to the other things that you support. This is something that you say, you know what? I think my gift, the gift that God allows me to make, can make a difference here. Rob, if you could go to the slide on the giving. Just two things here. I think if you go on the website, there's other options. But if you wrote a check and you wanted to go towards this, just put in the memo line, Haiti, right? You can do that. Or you can do an e-transfer, and there's a box in there that you can do that. I believe that God's people here in this house have been faithful to Haiti over the years. And I really believe that that's not going to change. And so I'm going to leave it there. There's your challenge. And